In this video, we will be adding the Create Razor page so that when we click here, it redirects us to the Create page where we can add new books to the database. So let me stop the application here and we'll go to the Solution Explorer inside Book List. We'll right click, add a new Razor page. We'll create an empty Razor page. Let's add this. Now when we create a new Razor page, we will call this as Create, and we want to generate a page model class, and this is not a partial view because we want a page model so that we can do some calculations on the get and on the post handlers. So let's add this. Now you can see that it is installing a NuGet package, which is Microsoft Visual Studio Design package, and that package is responsible for scaffolding new pages or any entities to your project. So now that we have the Create page here we again need the application DB context. So we can say private read only application DB context. We'll do a control dot again, and let's make it underscore DB. Then we need a constructor, and right here we'll get the application DB context as DB, and we'll assign underscore DB as DB. Now once we have that, what is the property that we are working here? It will be one single book because we will be creating just one book at a time. So it will be public book, let's call this book, and we'll have the getter and setter here. So this looks good. And now on the get, we don't need to do anything because we'll just display a text box where user can enter a book name and hit the submit button. But once they hit the submit button, we need a post handler. So what will happen on the post is we will retrieve the book name and add that to the database. So let's create that post handler here. So we'll do public async, and we'll use a task of iActionResult, and we'll say on post. So now what we'll be doing inside on post is first we'll check if not model state dot is valid. So if the model state is not valid, we will return back to the page. And what basically happens when we check this model state is if we go to our book model inside name, there are multiple validations which we can do. One of them is required. We'll have to include the data annotation namespace, and what this will do is once we add it to the database, it will make sure that this name field is required. So if on post it checks the name has been entered blank by the user, it will return back saying that it's an invalid state. So since we make a change here, we'll have to add it to the database. So let's add a migration, and let's call this make book name not null. So the build has failed. Whenever you are adding a migration, you have to make sure that the build is successful, and this is failing inside the code behind. Inside the create, my bad, right here it is expecting an iActionResult. So what we can do is right now we'll just return page so that the error goes away and we're able to add the migration. So let's try to add that once again. Okay, and if you see in the alter column, it is making sure the name nullable is false. So let's update the database to push it to the database. Okay, so the change has been pushed to the database. Now that we have added that required attribute, we'll first check the model state. If it is not valid, we'll return back. If it is valid, then we have to add this to the database. With the Entity Framework core, everything is really simple. All you have to do is underscore db dot books dot add, and here you'll pass the book object. But here on post, you need to retrieve it from the post action method. So let's call this book, and then you'll pass it here. So on post, we'll retrieve that and pass it here. Once we do that, what we'll do is we'll just await _db.save changes asynchronously. So we save the changes to the database here. And once we do that, we want to redirect back to the index action method. We are forgetting a semicolon here. So we will say return redirect to page. And what page do we want to redirect to? It will be the index page because there will be displaying all the books. Now the aligning is misstarted here. So I can do Control A and Control KD and that will align everything for me. Now you can see that on post we retrieve the book object from the Razor page. If we do not want to do that, Razor pages have something called as bind property. So if we bind this property to the Razor page, what it means that from the get or the post action method, it will automatically bind the book here. So we do not have to write that in the parameters and we can directly access that right here when we are adding that to the database. So this looks good for the get as well as the post handlers for create. In the next video, let's work on the create Razor page in the HTML and add a book to our database.